Well, thank you, Craig. Appreciate you coming on to the Pump Creative podcast. We're here at the Sydney Build 2024. I think it's been a very exciting kind of first start, seeing everyone kind of filter in.
It's enormous.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
so much bigger than last year.
Compared to last year. That's right.
Really cool. I was really excited to come last year, and it's just nice to be back.
Tell us a little bit about, what you do last year and then this year mainly, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. I have been working as a men's mental health mentor and a mental health advocate now for a number of years. I've been a speaker for over 20 years and have been teaching a mental health program that I sort of redirected a little bit more into that space. I went to the army full time for about 7.5 years, got out 10 years ago this month, and losing 6 mates to suicide post-service. Some were still serving when that happened to them, but after I'd left, it helped me to realize that I needed to focus my energies, because I was very privileged in defense to have a lot of guys come and open up and talk to me about challenging things that had happened.
For sure. Yeah.
I figured I was onto something, and I don't like to number them, but the 5th suicide was the hardest to deal with. I was very close to that guy, and so I decided I had to redirect all my energies in this space and give it some significant focus to mental health for men predominantly. And that's what sort of led me here. I'm very flattered and very honored to be able to come and do the Build conference. It came out, as we were talking before, as a result of all my regular videos that I was posting on LinkedIn about mental health and things you can do. And so to get recognized and noticed for that, it's always nice to get invited back. I can't have done too bad of a job last year. So. But I also got asked to be an ambassador, a mental health and construction ambassador. The construction industry has some significant challenges, and I'm hoping through what I'm doing and then through podcasts and helping to share the word, and God, I sound like a religious preacher, share the word, by advocating and helping people, because my presentation this afternoon is about destigmatizing mental health. Hopefully through this work I can help to get some traction within the construction industry more than I have done already, just help more people, because it's significant, and it only gets worse if we ignore it,
Exactly. It's a significant issue, I think, especially with growing young men as well. We need someone like yourself to be in that space to kind of lead charge, because there really isn't much online, right? It's only kind of recent that it's started to trend more upwards and people are starting to become more aware.
100%. I mean, there's some good people out there doing what they can, but it's such a big problem that we all need to be prepared to do, even if we don't have the time or it's not in our space to be able to really dedicate time to it. Just trying to do what little we can, or just be a friend, or help someone to open up, or help direct somebody in the right direction. Any little thing you can do can have a significant impact, and if it only stops one person from going too far, then it's job well done.
You've also written a book about all this.
I have. Thank you for asking. My book, Reclaim Your Power, is the culmination of all this work I've been doing. I've got an online mentoring program that I do with 10 modules, 12 months access, and up to 26 fortnightly Zoom calls. And the program's an expansion on my full day and half day workshops that I run for businesses. I also do them for community groups and other people to help out. It's my life's work, effectively. It's very heavily based in stoic philosophy and cognitive psychotherapeutic techniques that actually work. Rational emotive behavior therapy is the base therapy, but anybody listening who thinks, oh God, not another psychologist or not another bloody theory, it's actually really simple, and it appeals to most people's way of thinking of what is reasonable to go about dealing with your problems. And like I tell many people that I work with, you're probably doing some stuff already that is good. This just can acknowledge that, give you a framework to hang it on, or help to bring it on board. It's not some wacko, new agey or self-improvement-y thing. Not that there's anything wrong with self-improvement, of course, but something that's out there that hasn't been tested. The results I've had from the work that I've done really speak for themselves, and it's incredibly humbling to be able to get in and do this work with people who may be otherwise quite at risk.
For sure. I think these books, a lot of the contents about kind of mental health and the pressing issues, a lot of people are aware of it, but they don't ever acknowledge it. So I think it's very important to have a book where they have a physical copy of something or a digital copy where they can read through it, and it basically helps them filter out their thoughts.
100%. And inside the book, there's a QR code where people can scan the QR code. They have to, of course, they have to enter their details. I'm not getting away database generation, of course, but when they get in there, all the forms and the templates and the guides and everything in the book, you can download as a PDF. So if you liked one of the forms that I've got in there, but you think, oh, my writing's too big, I mean, mine certainly is, and you want to actually follow along as a program with the book, it's a standalone program if you like, you can actually do that. And I self-publish them, so I keep the prices low. So I'm about getting it out there and just helping as many as possible.
For sure. Now that's a lovely cause that you're working on. Just out of curiosity, how was your kind of experience with mental health growing up back then and then compared to now?
I'm really glad you asked, because I only went to my psychiatrist yesterday. I have the, standard diagnosis that you would expect from somebody who's been to war. I did 2 tours of Afghanistan in 2010, 2012. I have chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, alcohol use disorder, major depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. I've been able to manage those through doing all the right things. I see a counselor every fortnight. I'm working with a psychiatrist, but I'm not on medication. I work very hard to ensure that I'm not as well. I exercise regularly. I've started a men's walk on the Central Coast Men's Walk and Talk for any people in the industry who may be interested in checking us out. We meet on a Thursday evening at 7 p.m, whether it rains or not, and Tuggerawong Pathway. We walk around the beautiful Tuggerah Lake area, and it's in summer when you can actually see the sky at that time of day. It's breathtaking, but setting this up helps me too. If I miss a couple of weeks, I feel like I really need it. And those guys have not only become great friends, and I'm very blessed to have started that, but really, when I think about the most important factor that has helped me the most, it's the philosophy that's part of my book that has been the key element that has helped given me something to set my mind around, to work through. So these processes aren't just something I thought of or came up with or read somewhere. There's something I've put to practice to enable myself to thrive. And of course, the people I'm very privileged to work with who have also reported similar results.
Definitely having that community and then an outlet to basically have that support system is super important. A lot of people don't really know where to start.
Of course, it's such a good point that you make. Where do we get started? The first thing I would suggest people do is to forgive themselves. It doesn't matter if you don't think you have anything wrong, that's fine. But start thinking about forgiving yourself. And if you're not prepared to forgive yourself, think, what would happen if I did? Think, what if? Because forgiveness is one of the most powerful ways to start releasing this stuff.
Right.
But talk to your friends. There's no shame in getting a counselor. Sometimes it takes 6 different counselors to find the right person.
Absolutely. Well, that's great advice actually, because even some of my friends, speaking with them, suggesting them to go to counseling and whatnot, they usually just try the one time and then leave it there, right?
There's a whole thing around it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
That's a cop-out. Yes, it is okay not to be okay, and that's not a problem, but we can't end there.
They stop there usually.
There's not a lot going beyond that. So we need to find ways of finding okay, and not everything's life-changing or devastating, you know what I mean?
That's right, exactly right. And I think being in the Sydney Build Expo right now, how do you think, a lot of the construction industry is facing mental health challenges?
My God, it's dire. Somebody is 6 times more likely to die on a construction site of suicide than they are to die of a safety-related death.
Wow.
That's significant. There's 190 suicides in the construction industry a year. That's 1 every 2nd day.
Wow.
If we consider the fact that back in 2020, it was a declining number, but women represented 1% of tradies and technicians in construction. 3 out of 4 suicides are men. Construction is taking up a lot of that. So we need to do more.
Yeah, I think it's great that, you're here doing your work, raising awareness, especially in this industry. After, hearing about those statistics, it's some wild numbers, right?
Scary, man. So in my consulting work, I work as a change manager, which, whilst may not sound like mental health, it gives you a lot of access to it.
Right, I see. Can you describe a little bit more about what change managers do?
Yeah, of course. So 2016 was my first role at Sydney Trains as a change manager, right? So I'm there in the afternoon and evenings because these guys, they worked on the XBT, New South Wales diesel fleet is called the XBT. It's probably 40 years out of date, these trains. So the people who work servicing them are magicians. They can do some incredible stuff to keep these trains running and always get them on time, right? Anyway, I'm there presenting an SAP system. So anybody hasn't come across SAP, it's a German computer system that runs businesses, logistics, and all this stuff. And these guys, they turn spanners on trains. They freaking rebuild them. They're incredible. They do not care okay, about SAP coming to ruin their lives, right?
Yes.
And here I am bringing it. But a good change manager needs to know how to read the room. Now, if a change manager doesn't have a background in counseling, be careful. It's really good that they do.
Yeah.
So I could tell these guys couldn't give a stuff. But there was one guy in particular, we're friends to this day. He was head of the health safety committee, and he was the mouthiest, complaining. Change managers have to listen to the most vocal people and bring them into the tent, right? They've got to help everybody deal with the workplace change.
Right.
So after the session, it was at 10 at night, I thought, I'm going to get to know you. So I didn't leave there till midnight that night, just chatting away. He goes, what else do you do other than this? I go, oh, I've got a mental health and resilience program.
Yeah.
I must have mentioned it to somebody else who was also on a health safety committee. And a few weeks later, they were putting together a program for Rail Safety Week. Back then, it was about a 2-hour program. If people didn't want to talk, it was an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. I would show up at 7 o'clock every morning for Rail Safety Week at their toolbox or start of work meetings to try to convince them to come. Those that did come went and told everybody. And by the end of the week, the sessions were full.
Yes.
6 months later, I got invited back to celebrate 200 days of no lost time injuries. Mm-hmm. The first words out of Scott, who was the head of health safety committee's mouth, were, I'm sure everybody here would agree that Craig's program helped us to achieve this, was integral. I was like, you could shoot me now. 3 years later, all of the managers of the fleet depots came and found me. I'd left and come back to Sydney Trains. And they asked me to run it again, and I told them that story. Mm-hmm. They said, no, you don't understand. I go, what do you mean? They go, we've actually helped us to achieve over 1,000 days of no lost time injuries.
Wow.
That is the most humbling thing ever. 1,000 days. We're talking over 200 people. How many of those people are going to go home tonight? How many potential lives has that saved? So mental health is a big deal. It helps us. My program helps. It's a philosophy of living. It helps more than just mental health. It helps us to care for each other more, to look out for each other, and how to actually go about taking care of the big picture, because outside influences have an impact. Other things can have an impact. I mean,
absolutely.
God, I never used to think it was the thing when I was a kid, but they're seasonal affective disorder. You know, rainy days upset people. You know, you've got to understand this stuff. And the fact that somebody else is telling you about it, you need to understand that they have told you. You don't need to be an in-depth, you don't have a PhD in the freaking condition.
Yes.
The fact that you're a human being and you can go, tell me about that, learn, be vulnerable, share something of yourself.
Absolutely.
You'll help people to open up more. You'll win trust by being who you really are. And I don't believe in terms like authentic. I'm old-fashioned. I like genuine.
Genuine.
Just be genuine, because authentic is too ambiguous.
Very well said, Craig. To sum everything up, you know, go for it. The microphone, the camera's yours.
In the words of a band that probably nobody listening to this has ever heard, called The Descendants, I looked up one day and saw that it was up to me. You can only be a victim if you admit defeat. So don't ever admit defeat, and keep fighting, because you are too important.
Thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it, and hope to see you speak well throughout the Sydney Build Expo.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's been an absolute privilege. I appreciate it.